Oh, hi there. Quite a few familiar faces in the crowd. All right, so motion is lotion. What does that mean, besides being a catchy title for a Meds talk? Well, the one thing that absolutely everyone in this room has in common, at least until Tora's researchers come up with some practical things, is that we are all aging. Today, I hope to show you how movement can help us all age well. By the time we leave here, I'd like everyone to better understand the benefits of exercise, what it can do for you, and how to enjoy yourself while you're getting it. Now, before I lose anybody, and I'm talking about you people who think exercise is a dirty word, or who are intimidated by it, just keep an open mind. And if it makes it easier, you can substitute the word movements or physical activity for every time you hear me say exercise, because there are many, many ways to get exercise. And one thing has become really quite clear. Whether you are younger or older, male or female, able-bodied or living with a chronic condition, if you want to age well, you really need to keep moving. Let's start by quickly identifying the three main categories of movement based on the effect that they have on our bodies. First, there's movement that is done against resistance, commonly called strength training. It involves working against a load in order to challenge the muscles and provoke an adaptation response. So our muscle fibers and tissues actually change and increase in response to the higher load put upon them, and the result is we become stronger. That's good. So, lifting free weights and working with weighted pulleys are typical examples of strengthening. Now, the second type of movement, you hear this word a lot, is aerobic exercise, and it involves conditioning or endurance type activities. Typically, it requires 20 minutes or longer, is performed at a pace that increases our heart rate and our oxygen consumption, enough to challenge the cardiovascular system. Over time, this increases the system's ability to pump blood and deliver oxygen to the muscles and organs. The result is higher heart and lung efficiency and improved endurance. Again, it's great. Activities like running and cycling usually fall into this category. The third category of movement is designed to improve range of motion, and it's often referred to as flexibility exercises. So they usually involve taking the body through postures or movements that we might not otherwise perform in our usual daily routines. So think yoga or Tai Chi for this category. Now, although these are quite handy divisions for understanding our body's response to exercise or for research purposes, in reality, most of the activities that we do involve a mix of all or some of these three components. Let's look at kayaking. Most people wouldn't consider kayaking strength training. Any of you out there kayakers? Yeah, great. Okay. So if you go kayaking, say, once a week for an hour or so, you are most definitely going to get stronger in the muscles in your arms, trunks, and even your legs. The faster you move the paddle through the water, the more resistance you're creating. And your muscles are going to get stronger because of that resistance. So the faster you paddle, the stronger you get, and then the faster you can paddle, and you can see it's just going to get better. Now, depending on how quickly you paddle, you're going to also get cardiovascular benefits if you're out there for more than 20 minutes. And although you're not doing any formal range of motion, between getting in and out of the boat, loading and unloading your gear, and getting your life jacket on and off, well, you're most definitely going to be keeping some of those joints more limber than if you were not paddling. So it becomes apparent that our three categories are not mutually exclusive, nor do they just apply to exercise workouts. But they can be used to identify the beneficial components of exercise in just about any activity, whether it's cutting and stacking wood, walking the dog, or helping the grandkids build a fort. I also wanted to review them because in doing so, we've already begun to reveal some of the benefits of the different forms of exercise. We know that it can increase your strength. But are you aware that when we talk about that, we're including bones, ligaments, and tendons, as well as your muscles? Imagine, if we can stay stronger as we age, we're going to be less susceptible to injury, less likely to fall and break something and land in hospital, and more likely to remain independent because we have the strength to do so. Likewise, when we improve our cardiovascular capacity, we're actually developing greater activity tolerance. This essentially means more energy stores to continue doing the things that we enjoy doing, spending time with family and friends, pursuing our hobbies. And it follows that if we can maintain a good level of fitness, we're less likely to experience the isolation spoken of earlier when we age, simply because we become inactive. Finally, the same goes for flexibility. Mobile joints are happier joints. Trust me, I know. I have osteoarthritis myself. So if we can keep our moving parts moving, we're more apt to stay active, engaged, and involved in our world. Okay, so far I haven't really declared anything too earth-shattering, but the list of benefits is huge, and it continues to grow as science explores the effect of exercises on our whole system. Did you know that exercise can stimulate the circulation of endorphins? This is one of the body's happy chemicals. It also increases serotonin levels. That's a neurotransmitter that's one of our body's natural defenses against depression. It can also help improve sleeping patterns. And of course, staying physically active puts us all at less risk for unwanted weight gain and can promote weight loss if you're looking to achieve your optimal healthy weight. Exercise can be so potent that timed correctly and in conjunction with a carefully planned diet, it can actually reduce the need for medication in diabetes. I'd actually love to see where instead of handing out medication, that our first line of attack with physicians is to prescribe exercise for depression and to prescribe exercise for diabetes. And again, it's often in conjunction with our eating habits. It's also widely accepted that staying physically fit will significantly decrease our risk of suffering one of the big four. That's heart disease, lung disease, diabetes, and cancer. I'm not saying it's a guarantee that we won't have strokes and heart attacks, but genetic research is really starting to put more weight on lifestyle over hereditary and in determining our longevity. So if you think back to Tora speaking about all the influences with diet and lifestyle. Angela Brooks-Wilson, a geneticist who conducted a study of 3,000 Danish twins, believes that longevity is probably determined about 70 to 75% by lifestyle and only about 25% by having lucky genes. However, if those genes are playing a role, it can make a big difference because that's kind of what you start with. But this brings us to another question. Just how long do you want to live? And is living necessarily living better? Are we looking for something more than just longevity? Put another way, do you want to just add years to your life? Or would you also like to add life to your years? I love that phrase because I believe we can do both. It's stolen from a quote by Olga Kotelko. She's a 90-something-year-old master's athlete who took up track and field at the tender age of 77. She went on to thrive in her sport, taking home hundreds of medals by the time that she passed away at 95. And she was competing right up till the end. So actually, if you're looking for a good read, you can pick up a copy of What Makes Olga Run by Bruce Grierson. It's an enlightening and interesting read, and by the time I finished it, I was totally inspired. I checked, and it's actually available at both of our libraries here on the coast. It was the book that led me to some of the most enticing tidbits of information that I have to offer you, and here's where it gets interesting. Science has actually found that not only does exercise help maintain your physical well-being, but recent research continues to demonstrate that physical activity is one of our best current strategies for maintaining and improving memory, executive thought processes, problem solving, and overall general quality of life as we age. That's right. Staying active not only molds your body, but it's super important for keeping your brain in shape too. Exercise will boost your mental capacity. There's not just one study claiming this. They're numerous and growing. One of my favorites is a study out of the University of Illinois that took 60 to 80-year-old chronic couch potatoes, not my words, and started them on an exercise program. It began with a mere 15 minutes of walking per day and slowly increased to 45 minutes. After 6 months, their brains had grown significantly. The hippocampus, where memories are consolidated and new neurons are known to develop, was larger, but so too were the frontal and temporal lobes, where reasoning and sensory processing take place. Both neurons and connecting pathways showed growth, and accordingly, when the subjects were tested, they showed measurable improvements in reasoning, spatial processing, speed of learning, balance, that's becomes something for a lot of us as we get older, and memory. Another study found that aerobic exercise was able to stimulate brain growth that continued over a full year, with the growth rate as strong in the 12th month as it was in the 6th month, as long as the participants continued to exercise regularly. And still another study demonstrated that lifting weights, so that's a shift here. We're going from aerobic to strength training, but it showed that even that can enhance skills such as scheduling, organizing, and initiating. Wow. That's fabulous news. Think about it. If you want to improve your bridge game, don't just sit around doing crosswords. Get out and go for a walk, or a bike ride, or join a dance class. Have fun doing it. Move that brain. And to do that, you need to move your body. Pretty fascinating. All right. Hopefully you're starting to see why motion is lotion. Time to figure out how to get your regular dose. Here's where there are some differing opinions, but generally, most of the estimates coming out of the health promotion literature in the past 2 decades or so suggest that 30 to 60 minutes of moderate activity daily, or most days, with an aerobic component practiced 3 to 5 times per week in order to reap benefits. There's some growing opinion that to obtain maximum benefits, you have to break a sweat. Uh-oh. But the good news is you don't have to do it for long. So we're not talking about slogging it out on a treadmill for a whole hour. One study even suggests that you may be able to get away with 7 minutes of high-level break-a-sweat exercise weekly. Well, in my experience as a physiotherapist and an active sport participant myself, I think the magic recipe is not that complicated. Essentially, if you want to increase your chances of making it to your golden years and improving the quality of those years, you must make moving a part of your regular routine. And the best way is to include all 3 components of the movement in your repertoire, if you can, over the course of a week. That doesn't mean you have to be a jock. Look at it this way. Our bodies were made to move. We are genetically programmed to be hunters and gatherers. If we don't move our bodies like they were meant to, they start to malfunction. They get bunged up with things. They don't like it. So simply try to give your body a little dose of mobility every day. Consider it your mobility hygiene. Kind of like dental hygiene, right? We don't brush our teeth to cure them. They're not sick. We simply do it to maintain our dental health. Well, that's the same reason that we should move every day, to maintain our body's mobility health. What that looks like is going to be a little bit different for everybody, depending on your current condition, your age, your dislikes and likes, and what's available in your community. For some, that may be simply walking more, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, or doing an extra lap at the mall or grocery store. For others, it may mean doing yoga or picking up a new sport or activity. My first piece of really strong advice for you, though, is try to choose something that you like or have the potential to like. If you're really not sport-minded or exercise-minded, don't try to swallow that pill. Pick an activity that appeals to you. Hiking, bird watching. It's not that fast, but it gets you out of the house and off your butt. Beachcombing, volunteering. But whatever you do, find a way to get yourself moving daily. I have a wonderful 84-year-old client who lives alone and is still happily independent. What keeps her going? It's her garden. She loves it, and she spends time in it every day, in spite of her arthritis, in spite of the fact that she actually fractured her neck a few years ago. She healed up, and she's back in her garden again. She also does her own cooking and shopping. She simply refuses to become sedentary, claiming that if she stopped moving, she might seize up and rust. You know what, though? To some extent, she's actually right. The less we do, the more deconditioned we get. And the less energy we have, the more lethargic we become. Once you start to feel like you have no energy, it's really easy to start believing that you can't move. But the opposite is true. Start moving in small bits if you're not used to it. Increase it gradually. And as your body adapts, you'll actually have more energy. True. It's true. The more you do, the more energy you will get. And before long, you'll feel better both physically and mentally. Remember, simply walking induced some serious improvements in the brain function of the seniors I mentioned earlier in that study. If you're not sure where to start, or you'd like some support or some direction, try looking into a class or group. We're blessed here on the coast with a multitude of classes available, ranging from Pilates, yoga, and Rumba to aquatic exercise, martial arts, and dance. The Sunshine Coast Regional District operates several facilities, including pools, ice rinks, and recreation centers. They offer numerous classes, some specifically tailored for the over 55 crowd. The Sechelt Activity Center, formerly called the Senior Center, also runs a variety of classes, including a chair yoga class for those whose health or age impose limitations. Tai Chi, Qigong, also available. And there are several private gyms and personal trainers who can guide you through the ins and outs of various fitness approaches. And what's nice about that is they can take you at a pace that's comfortable for yourself. We also have an abundance of organized sports opportunities on the coast, many of which can be enjoyed in later years. These include dragon boating, canoe paddling, pickleball, swim team, and curling, just to name a few. Not sure about picking a sport this late in your life? Remember Olga? It's never too late. And many of these clubs and groups provide instruction, or they have masters and old-timers divisions. If organized sport's not your thing, try tapping into the great outdoors. With the ocean at our doorstep and the mountains in our backyard, we live in one of the best spots on the planet for enjoying outdoor activities. Hiking, skiing, paddling, snowshoeing, and golf, just to name a few. You can check out many of the companies or groups that promote these sports, and you'll find they often offer lessons or equipment rentals for people just getting started. Now, if finding the activity isn't the problem, but finding the motivation is, here's just a few tips to help hook you into starting. Grab a friend and commit to doing something together. It's much easier to do something when you have an ally. Or try starting a log. Record each time you do the activity that you want to embrace, and feel your sense of accomplishment as you record your successes. Try setting a goal and make it habit-forming. Did you know that it only takes about 21 days for something you do regularly to become a habit? Commit to that, and by the time you're done, it'll feel more normal to do your chosen activity than to shirk it. Now, before I go, I want to share a little mobility routine for you. You can think of this as your mobility hygiene. It won't take long. I use this with a lot of my clients, and it's this one. I'm going to step out so you can see me. This one is geared to help balance. You'll see as we get going that it works on strength, range of motion, and as you do it and get better at it, you can challenge yourself more by increasing the number of reps you do and how long you do it, so it will work on stamina too. So this is usually done. We start people standing at the kitchen sink, especially if they have any balance issues. And I invite any of you who'd like to stand up, and we're going to do it together. All right. So if you do have any balance issues, or if any of these feel a little bit shaky for you, just sit that one out, or maybe put a hand on your partner or companion if you need a little steadying. So I love these exercises because anyone can do them, and almost any age can feel them working. They're cheap, they don't involve any equipment. You're using your own body to provide the resistance. They're done in a standing position, so they're functional. I'm not asking you to lie down and lift your legs like Jane Fonda. I don't know how many remember the Jane Fonda workouts of the 70s and 80s. Okay, so we're going to start at the bottom. The first two are to work on your ankle muscles. So we're working on the muscles that control the ankle, that's front and back. And the first one is to lift your toes. Now that can be hard to balance, so you might want to touch something. And we need to do that every time we clear the ground, right? That's the first one. The second one is up on toes. And when we do that, we need to do that because we have to push off, right, with every step. So I like to combine those if my clients are strong enough when they're learning these. So let's just all do 5. Up and down and back 5 times. Now, if you think about it, where do you feel that? You can feel it, right? You can feel it in your calves. And even you young ones out there, you can feel this. Okay, great. So the workers that we have that go into the homes and help people range in age from early 20s into their 60s themselves. And they come back to me and they say, wow, Jody, I'm helping the patients do this every day, but I can feel it. And I'm like, yes, simple as they are. They're like brushing your teeth. They're mobility hygiene. They're going to make your muscles work. They're going to make you move. Okay, let's go to the next one. This one is near and dear to my heart because I have moderate arthritis in all 3 compartments of both of my knees, and I've had it for a long time. It's kind of hereditary because it's based on the angle of one of my bones on the other, and 6 of my cousins all have it too, called patellofemoral syndrome. That it means that your patella doesn't track, so it gets roughened quicker. It's kind of like having a part in your car that doesn't quite move smoothly. It breaks down easier. So I've learned from my own experience that this is a good, safe exercise to do even if you have arthritis. So you're just going to bend. You don't need to go down far, but you want your knees going over your second toe because that's going to keep everything in alignment. Just up and down. Okay? And if it hurts, you have arthritis, do a smaller one. And if it doesn't hurt and you're thinking this isn't going anywhere, you can actually start to pick up weights when you do it and just add weights to it. But this is how we use these muscles. We don't sit on a machine and do this. We don't use our body that way. If you want to strengthen, it's better to get on the leg press. So this is like your homemade leg press. You're using your own weight, though. Great. So now we've done the big, strong muscle that controls the knee joint, right? That's really important for getting up off. Well, the toilet's the hard one, isn't it? Because it's so darn low. But in and out of cars, in and out of bed, okay, all those things. So the next 3 are going to focus more on hip and controlling up here. So we're going to march back and forth. Now, I see a lot of people lifting nice and high, and that's great. But by the time I go to see patients in their homes, they're often too stiff and sore, and they've had problems and they can't lift that high. That's great. It's just great to see you all moving out there. All right, so the wonderful thing about these exercises is they can be done at any level. So you just do them to the best of your ability, and don't push it. But if you start out like this, you might find out that in 2 months you're going up here. And in 4 months, you might be getting a little higher. And I've actually seen this with people that didn't believe they could move anymore. And that's actually one of the most rewarding things in my job, is that I'm able to show people what they can do. So the last two are hip exercises, and I get you standing tall, out to the side. All right? Try not to kick your neighbor. I always tell everybody you're not allowed to kick your physio when I stand beside them. And again, so if we look at this exercise, you can do it alternate, or I can get people to do 5 in a row and 5 on the other side. Okay? Now, again, to progress something like this, you could do it faster, you do more repetitions, you lift higher if you're able to, and you take away support. So for some of my older patients that are struggling with balance, the balance component comes in as they hang on to the sink, and then they might start just resting on the sink, and then they might just start one hand on the sink until they can hover. So super simple exercises, but they can be quite beneficial. All right, you guys are great. Thank you for playing. That's it for Motion is Lotion. Thank you for coming out. I really hope that I've inspired you to get out there and move. So let's just all go and add some life to our years.